Hello and welcome to my 2021 year-end address. This is a video I decided that I would kind of throw together and share some of the things that I have learned, in particular 4 lessons that I've learned over the past 2 years. Wrapping that up by looking back and seeing how I've grown, what I've learned. And so I'm going to keep this video in first person, speaking in I statements as much as possible because I want to share from personal experience. I think right about now we can all use a word of encouragement, some good news. I'll just be speaking from my heart. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dominique D. Wilson, the founder of Holistic Yoni Care. I'm also a student esthetician at the Salon Professional Academy, Dallas, studying to get my license as an esthetician here in the great state of Texas. And you can find me on Instagram at Skincare by Dominique. Please take a moment to like this video because this helps more people to actually see this content. Also share this with some people who are in your network because again, I think this is a great time to hear something uplifting and inspiring as we step into 2022, as we get ready, prepare to embrace the new. Lesson number 1. It is okay to celebrate my happiness, peace, and success as often and as loudly as I choose. Right now, there are people at all different stages of life going through all different types of experiences, regardless of what's going on out in society and how things may be in a state of upheaval, transformation, shift, falling apart. All of us are at different places, and it's always like that, though. We can't forget that, you know? I went through a very long period of adverse experiences, particularly in my late teens, early 20s, where sometimes it felt like living in hell on earth. I made it through those things, and it built my resilience, taught me about who I am, what I stand for, and what I'm willing to fight for, what I put up with, and what I don't. I tried to just navigate through the chaos of 2020, of 2021 has been, just another adventure for me. It's like, okay, here we go again. You can pull the rug out from under me, change everything, and I just dance around it. It's not something that throws me off of my foundation. And even though those times of my life were very hard, and there's times where I never thought I would make it this far, I'm grateful for them because they have taught me how to use what I know to tap into the wisdom and to be able to focus on what's most important. When you're in a state of panic, it's really hard to make sensible decisions. And when you are in a state of panic, you want so hard to grab onto something solid. You want to know what's going to happen next, but you don't. You don't have any control per se over all the details of when's this going to end, when's this going to start, how are things going to play out. What you have is the moment. And so I have learned to just be in the moment, and that has helped me to grow exponentially. I have grown more in the past couple of years in terms of just who I am, my abundance, and my ability to just find peace and happiness. It's so important that we allow ourselves that and not get tempted to dim our lights, because I have encountered so many people that are really going through it. And sometimes I almost felt a sense of, I don't even feel comfortable sharing my growth because this other person is like literally going through all these things, and it's difficult to have to hold in your light and to dim it. And at that point, it lets me know, who are you surrounding yourself with? What situations are you putting yourself in? Why are you in a place where you feel like you have to dim your light? And so it's okay for me to celebrate those things and to not feel a sense of shame. And I encourage all of you out there, if your life has not fallen to shambles and things have gotten better for you over the past 2 years, own that, honor that. When I am grateful and own up to the things that are going well in my life, the things that are good, and the things that I'm excited and happy about, that is my song to my creator, my divine creator. My way of saying yes to what is good for me, and also being willing to receive more of that instead of being ashamed of it and trying to shove it under a rock for some other person based out of an insecurity. So I hope this is landing with y'all. So that's my first lesson, to just be okay. It is okay for me to celebrate that I'm enjoying my life. I love my life. I'm grateful for my life as it is right now. Wouldn't change anything. And and that's okay. I don't need to hide that because everyone else is not in the same situation. We give each other grace, and we try to be compassionate to the best of our ability, but also we're at different stages. Like I said, I went through hell. So I feel like I've earned my right to be happy and to be at peace, and it's okay. And so we don't know other people's story. We don't know what one another's story. We don't know what it took to get to a certain point, how much work this person put in. We don't know. And so we don't need to judge ourselves, and we don't need to judge one another. Just being okay with where you are and being able to celebrate that, and making sure that if you don't feel comfortable celebrating that with the people who are around you, then what's up with the people who are around you? What's that about? And so that is a big lesson that I have learned, and there's so much to unpack in that, but I'll just let you marinate on that one for a bit while I move on to the second lesson that I learned. I am not a global citizen, but an invested member of my local community. This idea of global citizenship, the first time I heard that, I think I might have been in high school or my first year or so of college, and it was really popular around that time. People were embracing this idea of globalism and global citizenship, and kind of tapping into being a part of this huge collective. But if we've learned nothing else in these past 2 years, if I've learned nothing else in these past 2 years, is that what's going on in my own backyard is so much more important and vital than what's going on across, this over in this other state, in this other country. One of the things that I think so many have experienced is being really tuned into the news and what's going on, and hearing all these stories of everything that's going on everywhere all the time. And at the end of the day, you live in your community, you work in your community, you shop in your community. Your friends, the people you see on a day-to-day basis who you can actually are within reach of are in your community. That's where your life is at. That saying, home is where you make it. Your home is your community, not all these far and wide places. And the more we are able to focus on where we are immediately, our local community, making that as beautiful and amazing a place as possible, rather than concerning ourselves with all these causes that are outside of ourselves. And I know that may not resonate with some people, but for me in particular, I know that I was trained through university and through my education and through community organizations to be so focused on social welfare. And although an element of that I find is important, so many have disconnected from their local community. You probably have more friends online than you do in your community, or acquaintances, I would say, with travel being kind of chaotic, right? And people having to slow down a bit and be more confined to their locale. I think that there's been an awakening of a need to pull your energy back in to your current surroundings and make sure that that is okay. How much support and how much of your energy do you pour into your immediate surroundings? And I don't mean community in terms of community service. I simply mean your neighborhood, your block, your building. If you live in an apartment building or something like that, your zip code. Who's your local representatives? What local businesses exist in the area where you are? Like being able to, if you have children who are in school, how much of yourself are you invested in the school and what's going on there? Do you go to school board meetings, things like that? Really just making sure your community is solid and tight. I have really learned the value in that. And if you are happy with your community and things are, and you feel connected, I think expanding that out regionally, nationally, then globally makes a little more sense. I just think that there's been such a focus for so long on what's going on in places that are so far away from us that at the end of the day, people feel so disconnected, isolated, and alone because you're overlooking who's in your community. Those are the people who, if something happens to you and you can't show up to whatever, they'll, take care of things for you, watch your kids, walk your dog, or bring a meal train for you. Not your friends who are thousands of miles away who may not be able to make it to you, family included. So, redefining family, understanding community. What do I consider community? How do I want to be connected to community, as opposed to having this idea that my network needs to expand across the nation and across the globe. If I have friends in far places, that's wonderful. But it's so important to be connected locally, because those are the people who have your back, because they're right there. If you haven't thought about your community and really form some solid ties there, how can you do that? For me, it's going to meetups, getting involved in different little sporting groups, and just meeting as many people right here in my local area as possible, building my network there, not necessarily business related, just to have people who you vibe with and who have your back no matter what. So that was my second lesson, a long one. I'm not a global citizen. We are not global citizens. We are residents, citizens, whatever, of our local community. That's it. That's who we are. That's where we are. And that's what's most important first. Because if something goes down in your community and you are impacted by that, it doesn't matter how many connections you have going on in other states and how many followers come from all these other places. None of that matters. What matters is who's right there, who can show up for you, and who you can invite over and things like that. So, hope that makes sense. I'm going to move on to my lesson number 3. It gets easier when I stop doing the things I don't want to do and allow myself to receive the value and support that I desire. This is a big one because I grew up in a world where everybody chipped in. We had a family business, there was a lot of people in my household, and that carried over into my relationships, how I got involved with work, community organizations, school. I always felt like I needed to be doing something, helping, busy. Part of that is my personality. One of my greatest strengths is achiever. So I like to be active and busy. But sometimes the downside, the shadow side to your strength is having it turned up too high in too many different places. And so I have learned in these past couple years how to chill, relax a little bit, and allow other people to help. Honestly, and I'm going to say this from the perspective of a woman, a mother, but also a wife. The more that we let go of the need to control everything, the more our partner steps into their leadership and their ability to give to you on a whole new level that you may not have even thought of before. And that comes in so many different forms: support and value. This also carries over into any type of relationship you have. But in particular, I just want to really highlight that. I know as a mom, burnout is real. It's a real thing. And you can get into such a habit of just trying to do too much. You want to do it all. I got to do this. I got to make sure that this has to be a certain way. That has to be a certain way. And it's my job to provide. Are you the sole provider in your life? That's something to maybe take to a journal. There's so many different forms of what a provider is. And so being a provider is a very defined role. And you get to choose if you're going to be the sole provider or if you allow yourself to receive value and support. And value means value. Whatever you find of value, be that money, be that things, wealth, abundance, in whatever form. And it can also be relationships, value. Value and support. Support meaning help with things and people to back you up and show up when you have things going on. And so the more that I have allowed myself to receive and stop trying to do it all, I've actually gotten way more done. I'm much more relaxed. I'm happier. I'm healthier. And I feel more free. And I have much more support in so many different areas of my life than I ever did before. It sounds counterintuitive. And it can be scary to let go when you've always been the one to kind of be in control and calling all the shots. The more you let go of that, and for me as a woman, the more I have stepped into my femininity, the ability to flow and to receive, the universe opens up so many blessings for you. And so each of us has to find our own place in how we move through life and how we deal with people. We're all different. Not everything works for everybody, so I'm not going to sit here and give a cookie cutter thing, but just wanted to share that with you. And I'll repeat, it gets easier. And by it, everything. Life gets easier when you stop doing the things that you don't want to do and receive the value and support that you desire. Even if you're not receiving that value and support that you desire in this very moment, it's fine to go ahead and plant the seed of expectation. Expect to have your desires fulfilled. Honor them. Don't suppress your desires for the sake of not wanting to hurt someone's feelings or not wanting to be rejected by someone or feeling that you're going to lose something that is really not of value to you, but just the thought of losing it scares you. Don't do that. Your desires are the most valuable thing you have. They're the magnet that attracts what it is that you want that's going to make your life better. So stay in that energy. Surround yourself with things and people that affirm you. Not necessarily people that agree with everything you believe in, because we've all seen that's not healthy. That's not healthy. People don't all have to agree with you and see things the way you see them to deserve space in your life. As long as they're good people, they're respectful, and they bring support and value, that's all that matters, regardless of what you all believe. And so, by people that affirm you, I mean people that reinforce the same love and respect that you have for yourself and the same dedication and passion. People who are passionate about something, to me, are so much more interesting than people who just don't have any passion and they're just kind of sitting around waiting for the next thing. So people who are passionate, who are motivated, and who are kind and have open hearts, those are people who affirm me because they love themselves. And so that's what I mean by surrounding yourself with people who affirm you. That definitely is a way to get started on receiving the support and the value that you desire. So that was the third lesson that I learned. And again, if you're finding this useful or this is resonating with you, go ahead and let me know in the comments below what you think and what your thoughts are, and maybe what some of the lessons are that you have been learning about yourself over these past couple years. Also, please share this video out. If you find this helpful and think that someone else might benefit from this information, go ahead and share the wealth. So now I'm going to share with you the fourth and final lesson that I learned about myself throughout the 2020 to 2021 period, and that is, I don't have to save anyone from my life to have meaning and value. I don't have to save anyone. It's not my job to save people. I think this is my favorite out of all the four lessons that I learned. I grew up believing that as a Christian at that time, it was my job to save souls. So in my early 20s, I realized that life path was not for me. And so I stepped away from the religion, right? Not so much the spirituality, but the religion. But then I didn't realize I was still carrying this idea of it's my job to save people. So I always felt like I'm wasting my time if I'm not creating something to motivate, uplift, to inspire, or to educate. I need to be doing those four things. And so I would host study groups when I was a university student where I would help people. And I mean, it was effective. You know, people would get better grades and they performed better on exams and things like that. Or I was a part of these different committees at my job. I was always going above and beyond. And you know what I realized after a lot of efforts like that, most of the time they're unappreciated. Or I'll say at least underappreciated. People just, everybody is so focused on their own path. You think people are paying that much attention to you, and they're really not, right? And after a while, it becomes draining. No one sacrifices themselves repeatedly and just is elated. I don't believe that. I have not lived that experience. There's a limit. All of us have a limit, and all of us want to receive some form of value and have our love and our generosity reciprocated at some point. Otherwise, it's just a one-way thing where you're depleted, right? Like, real talk. It begs the question, why am I doing this? Why do I need to save people? Is this proof to myself that I'm a good person, that I'm worthy of love? Because look what I did. Even though I may not put it online and take pictures of it and show social proof of all these great things I do, I'm proving something to myself. Why do I need to prove that? Where did I get the message that being me alone is not good enough? I gotta add something else to it. So again, going back to this idea of being underappreciated, sometimes I would get frustrated with people who seem to kind of show up, have all this turmoil going on, and you try and help them to the best of your ability because you don't know what else to do, and it goes nowhere. And I've been frustrated, felt like sometimes my feelings were a little hurt, and at the end of the day, it's like, Dominique, did this person actually ask you for your help, like straight up, in the way that you gave it? Did they flat out ask you for that? No. Maybe it seemed like they did, right? Also, you know, are they even in a position to receive? Like, are they ready? You know, when I was in my early 20s, if someone had said to me, your relationship's toxic, you need to get out of it, that would have been help. I wouldn't have listened to that. I was in that toxic relationship because of my own insecurities and some storyline I had going in my head. And just in the same way that I needed to go through that, glean the wisdom, understand those experiences, and come out of it with my own understanding of why that was the way it was and why it doesn't work anymore and who I am now that I'm stepping out of it. You can't tell that to somebody. You can't coach somebody through that. I'm not saying that we can't help each other. I'm saying that a lot of our problems are solved through life experience. At the end of the day, you have to bump your head and fall over a bunch of times before you learn to walk. You know, babies go through it every day. What makes us think that when we reach adulthood, that is not the same? And so it sucks to watch someone trudging through their own sludge, and then it makes you wonder, then what do you want from me? Why am I here? Why do you come to me? If my role is not to help you, then what is my role? And sometimes it's to learn compassion, you know, me feeling this need to help, to fix it, to end it, to move on to the next thing. Maybe it's to sit with it and understand the concept of grace. We give ourselves grace, but giving grace to others. You know, you can gracefully allow someone to deal with their stuff and say, I'm here. I don't have to experience your turmoil. I don't have to emotionally involve myself and stress out over it. But I can be present to an extent in your life. And that's it. That's what I have to offer. I bring to the table me, not my how-to tips, my, you know, herbal recommendations, and my, you know, advice on what books you can read. That's my journey. That's my story, but that's not me. I bring me to the table, and me is enough. So again, I don't have to save anyone for my life to have meaning and value. You don't have to feel guilty if you didn't volunteer this year, or if you didn't contribute, or if you didn't give to somebody in such a way. A lot of times, just your presence alone is so powerful and so healing to other people that you are giving something. And if you want to go above and beyond and give extra, that's great. But I think, owning where we are, what we bring to the table, and being really clear on that helps you to set boundaries. It helps you to reaffirm yourself. And it also helps you to have peace. Instead of feeling like, well, I'm not doing enough. I'm not out there protesting. I'm not, going to these places to do this and that. And I'm not on the phone. Like, who says you have to do all that? We all have our own way of showing up. And as long as you show up in a way that is perfectly, authentically you, where you don't feel like you're forcing something to make appearances, then I'd say that's pretty all right. And what matters most is how you feel about it. So those are my 4 lessons that I learned. Again, it's okay for me to celebrate my peace, happiness, and success. Number 2, I am not a global citizen, but an invested member of my local community. Number 3, it gets easier when I stop doing the things I don't want to do and start receiving the value and support that I desire. And number 4, I don't have to save anyone for my life to have meaning and value. So those are my 4 lessons that I have learned throughout this 2020-2021 process. And although, we have some bumps on the road ahead, straight up, 2022 is going to be an eventful year. And I just want to encourage everyone out there to think about these things, maybe write them down in your journal, see how they might apply to you, even if you didn't resonate with some of the things that I learned. Maybe on some level you could. And if not, what did you learn about yourself over these past 2 years? Remember, everything is temporary. There's times when life is in an upheaval. There's times where things are calm. There's times, just like the stock market, where things are crashing, and then there's times where things are bullish, as they would say, going up, and everybody's making money. And so, it's important that we don't get caught up on the slope and allow that to pull our energy down to places where it doesn't need to go. This is about remembering that the magic happens right now. It's in how we show up for the now that matters, because we don't have control over what happens next. You can make plans for 2 years from now, but you don't know what the world's going to be like then. And it's not about being afraid of that. It's about making the most of right now. And right now, you are where you are, and you're surrounded by the people who you're surrounded by. So how can you make the most out of that? If anything, I think that's a great way to tie this video up. That concludes my year in address. I hope you've enjoyed this. And definitely let me know in the comments, what are some things that you've learned about yourself? I hope that you had a beautiful holiday season thus far, and I'm wishing you a very happy, prosperous, healthy, and fulfilling new year. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.